Good evening, Burlington City and County government officials. I am Sean O'Malley, your Regional Emergency Coordinator. This quick brief is to update you on the continued threat from our recent winter storm, important changes in the situation, and what steps we need to mitigate the risk. According to the National Weather Service, the cold air is going to stay with us for the foreseeable future. Expect temperatures to hover around 20 degrees during the day and drop to 0 at night. This continued cold temperatures will continue to hinder the efforts of the Department of Transportation and their efforts to clear the roadways, as the salt and abrasives will do next to nothing. Since the last brief, there hasn't been any more reported deaths, but I want to remind you that up to this point, the storm has caused a reported 10 deaths. These deaths are a combination of hypothermia and the improper use of heating sources. There's also been reported to be over 30 injuries due to the icy conditions that are still prevalent as we speak. That being said, there has been an increase in the number of calls that the first responders have had to respond to. This has caused additional overtime needed. Due to this overtime, the entire budget for the first responders has been spent already for the year. The NIMS plan has been approved or has been drafted and awaiting approval. The NIMS plan is going to be focused and driven from the EOC centered here in Burlington. This is necessary as the EOC is the nervous system of the recovery efforts. Of note, the NIMS plan relies heavily on the expertise and cooperation of the National Guard. Since they have an entire support operations section whose main job is the planning, resourcing, tracking, and executing all things logistics, it would be foolish not to utilize that experience. With the NIMS plan also comes the need to ensure that we are staffing the EOC 24/7 with the proper personnel. We don't need a placeholder there from each section. Instead, we need to ensure that those there can provide the necessary data and make a decision for whatever entity that they represent. Because of this, we need to continue to improve the Emergency Operations Center, to continue developing a common operating picture as the situation develops. With the National Guard and FEMA involved, this should allow us the additional resources needed to ensure that the EOC can handle the increased workload and capacity needed to fulfill the NIMS plan. The improvement of the EOC is going to continue to be a never-ending process. There's always something that we can continue to do to improve this. Schools and airports will remain closed and will be turned into shelters or storage for incoming relief supplies. This will continue as the majority of the roads within the state are still closed and will remain so until the Department of Transportation has a chance to improve the safety of the roads. I advise that the travel restrictions still remain in effect for all personnel except for essential personnel and for emergency situations only. The only deviation still to this is that I recommend that those whose roads have been plowed instruct them to transport themselves and any neighbors that they can to the shelters to ensure that we can get these shelters filled. You need to continue to develop, resource, and bring stranded citizens to the shelters that have been established. Currently, there is only room for about 10,000 people, but if we follow the evacuation worksheet and review it and maximize all the recommendations in there, we can have shelters remaining for the remaining 15,000 people in just a number of days. Currently, many citizens do not want to evacuate. This is understandable, but we must stress to them the importance of evacuating. We also cannot expect to show up to their door and have them leave immediately. We need to ensure that we give them plenty of time and plenty of notice on where the link up for evacuation is and the necessary steps they need to take for their house to prepare it. Many people will not leave their pets or animals behind as they evacuate. Currently, the shelters we have available for the 10,000 people do not accommodate animals. But just a reminder, due to the Pets Act, we must start to develop a shelter plan that encompasses the pets. Those with livestock, we must inform them that they must shelter their animals the best way that they can, ensure that they have enough food and water to last up to about a week. At that time, we should be able to let them go back to their residence and check on them. The EOC is currently in the process of developing a plan to collect up all the livestock that has passed away during the storm and remove them to a safe location. Those pets that can be evacuated, the owners must provide enough food to go with the animals, as pet food is not going to be provided at the shelters. We also must ease the fears of the citizens about looting and the potential loss of everything they own while they're in the shelters. Police are still reporting that looting and break-ins are on the rise. Primarily, this is caused by teenagers at night. Add to this the fact that the court system is down and the jails are full. The police are having difficulties keeping up and protecting the residents. Our current plans aren't working. We need to develop an effective plan to prevent this looting. But with the police working overtime as it is, it will be a very difficult plan to in place. Part of this problem might resolve itself once all the shelters are in place and we can demonstrate that we can supply all the citizens with all the necessary resources that they need until they can go back home. Getting the 911 infrastructure back up and running is still a very top priority. This will be exceedingly difficult as the power infrastructure is going to continue to be down with all the power lines down. We need to continue to work on alternatives for the citizens to reach out to authorities when an emergency takes place, or as these looting or break-ins continue. As more generators are in place and the National Guard brings in more communication equipment, this might be possible. First responders need to continue to focus their attention on locations where personnel are most at risk, i.e. the nursing homes, where children are stranded, and where the power has been out the longest in the rural areas. The 2,000 National Guard members statewide that have been called up to serve are having a difficult time making it in. Much like everybody else, they're having problems with the roadways. Ensure that we are communicating with the governor's office and the leaders of the National Guard on the ground to determine what each lane's entities are and what the leadership structure is. Once the NIMS plan is in place, this will assist. Having more people to help on ground isn't necessarily useful if we cannot fully utilize those personnel. Velco has assessed there to be about 575,000 people statewide that are without power due to the 26,000 critical parts of the power grid that have been damaged. Velco currently has all available personnel working the issue, as well as utility companies from around the country who have sent crews and equipment to help. As the roads continue to be plowed, they will be able to access more of the power grid and make the necessary repairs. They can't effectively reach the down power lines without proper plow support coming from the city. You must ensure that you are giving them the necessary support to reach the areas that they need to access, because without your assistance, they can't complete their work, which will eventually endanger more lives. Ensure that you are integrated in all that they do, as this will ensure as quick as possible recovery. We need to prepare ourselves for the media onslaught that is already starting. As we speak, there are hundreds of media from across the U.S. and Canada converging on Burlington to see how recovery efforts are coming. This is already causing some issues as they are getting in the way of the workers trying to clear the roads. I recommend that we establish a base of operations for the media to work out of and explain to them they need to limit their activities to a set area to ensure not only their safety, but the safety of the people as well. Along with this, to keep the focus of the media, we need to start to schedule twice daily briefings on the current updates of our situation. Along with the normal danger briefings that we've done, such as the use of alternative heating sources and clearing of ice, we must start to address a few other concerns. More and more cardiac problems are starting to emerge due to the shoveling of the snow, as well as increased hypothermia from more people being without heat. In addition, we need to put a call out for help for all available citizens who can make it to the hospital, as they are running very short on blood and need all blood types. FEMA and the NGOs are starting to come through with relief supplies. The first shipment will arrive in the next 24 hours. To ensure that these activities are coordinated properly, please pass on that all entities that wish to provide relief supplies need to contact the EOC. The EOC will be the point of contact to ensure that all relief supplies are properly coordinated and distributed based off of needs. Additionally, I recommend that a hotline be established for families to start calling to start finding their loved ones. The faster we can ease fears and bring families back together, the easier the recovery efforts will be in the long run. With your continued help and proper coordination with FEMA, we should all safely make it through the recovery from this winter storm.